But without any further ado, I want to welcome all of you on this lunchtime with a wonderful friend of ours, Pastor Sophia.
Hello.
Hi, Pastor Sophia.
Hello. It's so good to be here.
I am so glad that you're here. We recently got to go visit you in Glen over in Manchester, England.
That's right.
And it's such a beautiful place. I mean, it's just one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been and seen. It's so beautiful. But to have you visit us this weekend, we are just so honored and excited for you to be here.
Me too.
And
I love being here.
yeah, so I mean, all of the wonderful people that are watching us today, I want them just to get to know who you are and your story a little bit. Can you tell me your story a little bit? How you got saved? And
Well, I'll just let you know where I'm from.
yes,
So, Sophia Barrett, married to Glenn Barrett.
yes,
We pastor a church in Manchester, UK. It's a multi-site church.
yeah.
We are called Audacious Church.
Ooh, fun.
Audacious means to be cheeky, to be fearless,
Ooh,
to be unrestrained by convention, to challenge assumptions.
wow.
And we want to be disciples
Oh, wow.
that are like that, you know,
Yes.
that are just daring and fearless and
Yeah,
able to step into everything that God's asked us to do.
yeah.
And we're multi-site, so we've got 7 locations,
Uh-huh.
and our latest
Wow.
one is in Geneva in Switzerland,
Oh, wow.
which is going really well as well.
Wow.
And so that's just the beginning.
So all 7 of them, where are they all at?
Okay, so we've got Manchester Central. We're in the city centre of Manchester,
Mm-hmm.
and we have plans to build a brand new cathedral
Wow.
in the city centre of Manchester, and
Yeah.
hopefully that's not too far off.
Yeah.
And then we've got one in the north of Manchester, the one in the south. Then we've got one in the city of Chester, which is a beautiful Roman city.
Oh, wow.
And then we've got one in Cardiff in Wales,
Yeah.
the capital city of Wales. And then we've got one in Sheffield in Yorkshire,
Wow.
and then Geneva.
Oh, wow. Is Geneva the furthest one?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow. That's so fun, though.
So lots of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my husband is also busy leading the Assemblies of God Great Britain.
Wow.
So he oversees over 620 churches
Wow.
and growing.
I know when we went to your leadership conference this last season, there were so many churches from all over that area.
Yes.
And that was really awesome to see. Great leaders. And how long have we known each other now? I mean, it's been
I don't know. I want to
Maybe.
say maybe 2015.
okay. So, almost 10 years.
Yeah,
Almost.
Yeah.
Wow. It's gone by very fast. So, but I mean, a little bit about you. How did you get saved? How did God come into your life?
I was raised, so I'm Chilean by
Mhm.
descent. My parents are Chilean.
Yeah.
They emigrated to Australia, and that's where I was born. So
wow.
I'm Australian by birth,
Yeah.
and now I'm British by choice. And we were raised in a Roman Catholic school. But my
Okay.
mum was a rebel. She was raised in a convent school
Wow.
back in Chile, and she just raised us saying, we're sending you to a Roman Catholic church, but you need to know that God is not there.
Oh, wow.
So we were very anti-church,
Mm-hmm.
and my mum was like the collector of wisdom. She collected, she read all religions.
Yeah.
All their sacred books were in our house,
Oh, wow.
including Scientology and Jehovah Witnesses Bible and all this kind of stuff. I remember I got in trouble at school because I had to bring a Bible, and I ended up bringing
A different one.
a different Bible. But she was just open to anything.
Yeah.
And then a really cool story.
Yeah.
My parents got divorced, which was a really unsettling and horrible time for my brother and I.
Uh-huh.
And then my mum got remarried.
Wow.
But I was about 16, and she said that she was going for a run.
Mm-hmm.
She was putting her shoes on,
Mm-hmm.
and she heard the audible voice of God.
On her run?
just as she was putting on her shoes.
Oh, wow.
And so she's like, and this voice said, how long will you be the only God your children know?
Oh, my goodness.
And she was like startled, but just thought, that
Yeah.
I'm making things up. And then the voice came again and said the same thing.
Yeah.
And then said, take your children to church and teach them about me.
Wow.
So I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
I just knew that my mum all of a sudden
Yeah.
has this passion to take us to church. And so we go to all different denominations, but we end up at a small Pentecostal church
Mm-hmm.
in a pioneer situation. So they had rented a school hall.
Uh-huh.
It was their second service. It was a British couple in Australia who had just finished Bible college and were starting their own church. They were
Wow.
a couple with 3 little children. The husband preached, the wife played guitar,
Ooh.
and everything about it was cringe.
Oh, because it was the beginning.
It was
beginning,
awful.
beginning.
It was awful.
Not that much practice.
It was, and the pastor was doing the Pentecostal two-step. I don't know if everybody knows what that is.
I'm
but
not sure.
It's I could demonstrate, but I would have to take all this stuff off. But it's let me just say that it's not cool
Oh.
at all. And I remember just thinking, oh, get me out of here. This is horrible.
And you were 16.
I was 16. Everything about it was cringe. And the pastor preached the gospel,
Uh-huh.
talked about Jesus, talked about the cross.
Wow.
And I remember, because I've been brought up in Catholic education,
Oh.
so the cross wasn't new to me.
Yeah.
I knew all about that.
Yeah.
But it was a Holy Spirit moment where I heard the gospel and it was like for the first time.
Wow.
And not only that, but it was personal.
Yeah.
And I remember in my mind going, why would Jesus die for me
Wow.
when I don't acknowledge him, I don't think about him,
Yeah.
he's nothing to me. And then just hearing that God wanted a relationship with me,
Yeah.
I just had an encounter with the love of God through the cross. And the pastor said, what the Lord wants is your heart. And I remember giving my heart to Jesus.
Yeah.
And I was a teenager that was pretty disappointed with life.
Mm.
At 16, they're already telling you that you've got to make a decision about what you want to do with the rest
Yeah.
of your life.
Who do you want to be when you
Who do you
grow
want to
up?
be? And I'm like, I don't know.
And you better decide right now.
Right now, you've got to decide right now. And I was just looking at my friends and the lifestyle that we were all living and thinking, gosh, this is bad.
Wow.
I mean, please tell me there's more to life
Yeah.
than what I'm actually witnessing and
Yeah.
experiencing.
I felt the same way.
Did you?
Yeah. I remember I was on the floor in my friend's house, sleeping on the floor in not a bean bag. You can't sleep in a bean bag, a sleeping bag. And I looked out the window. My grandma had just went to be with the Lord. And I said to myself and kind of to the Lord in my own way, wow, is this all there is to life?
How old were you?
17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I gave my life to the Lord just before my 17th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And it was my last year of high school.
Yeah, me too. Last year of high school.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so disappointed with life before then.
Yes.
And then I gave my life to Jesus. I had an encounter with Jesus and I invited him into my heart, into my life. I gave my life to him.
Yes.
And my mum says that I walked out of the church and I looked at her and I said, now I know who I am.
Oh.
And now I know why I'm here.
Oh, wow.
And I knew that I wanted to serve Jesus with my whole life, my whole
Yeah.
heart,
Yeah.
and tell people about this love.
Wow. I
And
think
that was 17,
Yeah.
and it's shaped my whole life.
I love it because, like, your mom was just putting on her tennis shoes, about ready to go for a run, and God spoke to her. And I just think that nobody's out of reach for God to show his love to. And, I mean, you never know, maybe there was somebody praying for you guys, too.
I think there was. And I think there was some friends of the family
Believing for.
that were believing for us.
Yeah. And that's where those prayers for children, prayers for families that are far from God, however God reaches them, but he'll get to them. And it's not always the same way for every person, but he will get to them one way or another. And what I think is so powerful, I was just talking to Pastor Jason's mom the other day about when you give your heart to the Lord, you don't always realize the generations that are going to come after you. Or like in your case and Glenn's case is the churches that were going to come after you.
Right.
So you got saved at 17 years old, but that one decision to give your life to the Lord at that age, but all of these people are so blessed now because of that one decision. So we always try to encourage people, like, it doesn't matter what it is, what the situation might be, obey God or follow God or give God your heart, because there's a lot of people on the other end of it that you might not even realize, that are going to get help, that are going to get saved because of one moment of saying yes to God.
In this dusty little school hall in
Yeah.
Cringe Fest.
It wasn't perfect circumstances.
Nope. No hype, no music, no nothing.
Yeah. Nothing necessarily cool or
Nope.
attractive to make a 16-year-old girl say yes to Jesus. But Jesus, he's like, I'll cut through all of that cringe and I will get to your heart. And once I have your heart, I have your life. And then once I have your life, I'm going to use you one day to impact thousands and thousands of people to come to him. That's amazing.
That was like a long, long time ago now.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm still impacted every time I think about it.
Yes, yes. I can still remember what I was wearing when I got saved.
Right?
I was wearing overalls. And I remember not only what I was wearing, but I can remember my state of mind and the brokenness of my heart.
Yep.
And how empty I was at 17 years old. Like I was talking to a pastor's wife the other day, and she was mentioning how I think she was like 25, and she realized how painful the world was. But I thought, and I mentioned to her a little bit about my testimony, but I had mentioned that, man, when I was 13, from the time I was 13 to 17, you can realize real quickly how painful the world is not serving God. And by the time I was 17, like I'm sure yourself too, it was like, I'm done with this. I've had enough of this pain. I don't know. I've had enough of this. I don't want to try to live without God. This is miserable.
Absolutely. It's so true. And I tried looking, I think when I was 15, I was a Hindu for a year.
Wow.
Because
yeah, you kind of start looking, huh?
Searching for something.
I tried to go to catechism.
Did you?
I did, because my friends their family was Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised Christian, but I was away from my family at that time. And so I was hung around my friends' families, and they were Catholic. So they were going through catechism.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, hey, can I go to catechism with you? And then I don't know who I don't know which call them, I know they were teachers there. They say, but you're not part of this church. I'm like, yeah, but I want to go to catechism. And you're hungry. You know that you were made for more. You know that you have a hole in your heart. And you knew, like I knew of Jesus when I was a little girl. But then I walked away from him. So you start to find him again.
And do you know what I love about Jesus?
Yeah.
Is that you can trust him.
Yeah.
With everything.
Yeah.
And you can accept him wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
See, when I was searching, and I was searching in Hinduism and I was searching in other places, it was like, take what you like, but leave what you don't. And I thought, if something's the truth, then you should be able to accept it.
Trust it all wholeheartedly.
100%.
Yeah.
And so that's what I found in Jesus, someone I could accept 100%. There was nothing that I needed to leave, nothing that I didn't like. He was just totally and utterly attractive and beautiful to me.
Yeah. And he gave his life for me, and I want to give him my life back in return.
Makes sense to me.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes when we're ministering, I'll tell people, nobody else died for you.
Yeah.
Jesus died for you. Don't reject him.
Yeah.
Accept him, because he's everything.
I'll take that kind of love any day.
Yes, yes. We were talking earlier, I thought this was powerful. Pastor Jason this morning was preaching an awesome message. And once in a while, he ministers a little bit about it. But I know we were talking earlier, and I want you to kind of share what's on your heart about it. But he always talks about once in a while the victim mentality. I want you to share a little bit what God puts on your heart to share with people so we don't get stuck in that victim mentality. Because we've all been through things, but we can't let those things keep us down. So you share on that.
You know, Liz, you were talking about one decision
Mm-hmm.
making a huge difference to potentially thousands of lives.
Yes.
But it's never that one decision. It's the one
Wow.
decision that starts the journey,
Yeah.
but it's the decisions you make in the valley. It's the
Yeah.
decisions you make in the challenges. It's the
Wow.
decisions you make when life does not go the way you thought it would go.
Yeah.
It's those decisions that you make when you are wondering what just happened to your life because it feels like the world has just crumbled
Wow.
and the ground has moved from underfoot and nothing seems right.
Wow.
Those are the times that when you're talking about the legacy
Yeah.
of thousands of lives being affected, it comes down to what do you do when you don't know what to do? What do you do when you're in a storm
Yeah.
that makes no sense?
Yeah.
It wasn't your cause. You didn't make it happen.
Yeah.
It was outside of your control.
Yeah.
And I don't think people appreciate that when you say yes to Jesus, you're not saying yes to an easy life.
Yeah.
You're not saying yes to a life that's always going to flow in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in fact, saying yes to Jesus is saying yes to a relationship.
Yeah.
And often the Lord uses challenges, adversity,
Yeah.
disappointment, discouragement as opportunities for us to find him
Wow.
in a brand new way.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I became a Christian and I knew I wanted to serve Jesus.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was going to do that. And when I was 24 or 25, I married my husband and we moved to England knowing that we were going to be part of God's plan
Wow.
for the UK and Europe.
Yeah.
We had a vision to see thousands of youth and young adults rise up
Wow.
and believe in a big God and believe that they could do big things for God.
Yeah.
And to really transform our nation and spill that revival into Europe.
Yeah.
So we're excited, but there have been moments in my walk with God where I felt alone.
Mm-hmm.
I felt ignored. I felt invisible. I felt overlooked. I felt unknown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are the times where it's so easy, just like the Israelites in the wilderness wanting to go back to Egypt.
Wow.
Oh gosh, I want to go back home.
Yeah.
I just want to go back home to what I know,
Yeah.
to what feels comfortable, to what, my family.
Yeah.
I'd left my family. I'd left everything that I'd known and gone to another country.
Yeah.
And I think that's the encouragement that I want to give people is that in those moments it's very easy to say, I'm a victim. This isn't fair.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for it. This
Yeah.
was not my doing.
Yeah.
And yet I am in this pit. I am
Yeah.
in this prison. I am in this
Yeah.
challenge and pain
Yeah.
and all of the things that can feel like a tidal wave
Yeah.
of emotion
Yeah.
and can keep you stuck.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we live in a society now where victimhood is almost an honor.
Wow.
It's almost like if you're a victim,
Yeah.
then you have the right to speak and you have the right to, be in a position of influence. It's almost like we're playing victim Olympics. And the more victim you are, then the more you have a right
Wow.
to be somebody and
Yeah.
to speak on issues.
Yeah.
We used to honor courage.
Wow.
We used to honor determination
Wow.
and fighting for what was right.
Mm-hmm.
But now it seems like that's all upside down.
Wow.
And yet it's what we do when we feel like a victim
Mm-hmm.
that actually determines
Yeah.
our legacy, determines what happens. I know that Glenn and I, who have been in the ministry 30 years,
Wow.
would not be where we are today, doing what we're doing, planting churches, discipling people, raising up leaders, and
Yeah.
having a wonderful opportunity to be a part of God's
Yeah.
plan if we hadn't refused to be a victim
Yeah.
in those situations that were outside of our control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess what I want to say is when you're in those positions, you have to ask yourself, is God still God?
Yeah.
Is he still in control?
Yeah.
Is your life in the hands of man
Yeah.
or circumstances?
Yeah.
Or is your life in God's hands?
Yes.
And I think that that's something that I've learned when I don't know what to do and I don't see a way forward. I don't see a way out and I feel powerless.
Yes.
And that's what Pastor Jace was talking about today, about being weak.
Yeah.
That's when you got to find God
Yeah.
because he is the light in the dark.
Yes.
And if you find him and you say, Lord, I don't understand what's happening to me, but I know that I need to stay with you.
Yes.
And whatever you need to teach me, whatever you need, I need to know in this circumstance, then I'm gonna learn it.
Yeah.
An example of that
Yeah.
was when I was 2 years into planting. See, we were in Sheffield for 12 years, and then our pastor released us to do Audacious Church in Manchester.
Yeah.
And I was 37 years of age, nearly 38.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, this is my moment. God spoke to me when I was 17 about what my life would be like, and I thought, right now, I'm not a newbie anymore. I'm not a novice anymore.
Yeah.
I've put
37.
I'm 37. I'm 20. I've been 20 years doing this now. And I've learned my lessons and I've fought my battles and I know what I'm doing, and I'm so excited because I'm about to step into destiny and everything that God's got for me. And then 2 years later, I was in a storm of my life where I stopped sleeping.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm. We're pioneering a new church. Everything's going great.
And you're not able to sleep.
And I can't sleep.
Oh, no. That is hard. It's hard not to sleep.
Well, there's a reason why they use sleeplessness as a form of torture.
Yes.
Because you think you're losing your mind.
Wow. Wow.
Because your body starts to shake. Your tolerance levels go down, and you
can't function hardly.
Can't function.
Wow.
And I was homeschooling my children at the time who were in primary school.
Yeah.
And I had nothing.
Oh.
And I just had nothing. I had no strength.
Yeah.
I had no resource. I just could not function properly.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And I couldn't fix it.
Yeah. Wow.
What do you do when you've got a situation and you can't fix it? The doctors couldn't help me.
Yeah.
And I remember a friend of mine who was a psychologist. He said, "Soph, you're on the road to burnout."
Wow.
He said, "Your brain's exhausted."
It's like it's not allowing you to shut down to rest.
And he said, instead of you've got a hormone called serotonin that gets injected into your brain just before you fall asleep. It gives you that lull to go to sleep. I had depleted my serotonin so low that my body was injecting adrenaline.
Oh, right before you were going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And he gave me some really good advice,
a
few things to adjust. He said, you're going to have to reevaluate how you're doing life.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that he asked me to do, he said, this will change everything. He says, you're going to have to learn how to meditate in God's presence.
Wow.
And I didn't understand what that was.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of the keys that not only brought me to a place of healing over time, but it actually transformed my innermost being. So that Pastor Jace preached a message on Ephesians 3, and that was my scripture for that time.
Yeah.
Was, for this reason I kneel before the Father, in whom Every family in heaven and on earth derives its name, and I pray that out of his glorious riches
Yeah.
he will strengthen you with power by his Spirit, so that
Wow.
Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith.
Yeah.
And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all God's holy people, to know how wide, long, high, and deep is the love of God, and to
Yeah.
know this love that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled to the fullness of God. I stayed in that scripture
Wow.
for about 18 months.
Wow.
And this is a discipline that I think we've forgotten in the Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
The Anglicans know it. Even the
Wow.
Catholics practice it.
Wow.
But it's the idea of going into God's presence and you don't pray, you don't worship, you don't intercede, you don't speak in tongues, you don't do anything. You find the Lord and you stay there.
Wow. You just stay in his presence.
Stay in his presence and you look.
Wow.
The Bible says, behold
Yeah.
the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world.
Yeah.
That word behold means to look and keep looking.
Well, even in the Bible, when that sickness came out in the Old Testament,
Right?
and then the Lord said, look at the serpent on the pole and keep looking.
That's exactly
And then
right.
whoever looked at it was healed.
Yeah. And
That's-
do you know how hard this is? This is so hard.
Yeah.
To get into God's presence, not to speak, not to ask, no petition, no intercession, no nothing,
Yeah.
and just look.
Wow.
And what I experienced was that it wasn't about my agenda.
Yeah.
It was about God's agenda. And in that
That's
place, as I was looking, he would talk to me about who I was.
Oh, wow.
He would tell me about what it was to be a father, because I didn't understand the father heart of God.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a relationship with my father.
Yeah.
So he was talking to me about being a daughter, about being chosen, about
Wow.
being delighted in, about being accepted,
Yeah.
about being approved of.
Wow.
And it was during that storm of sleeplessness
Yes.
and spending that time in God's presence that I realized I didn't understand grace.
Wow.
I'd been in the ministry then for a long time,
Yeah.
preached on grace, sung about grace,
20 years, you said?
taught on grace.
Wow.
But when it came to me,
For the love of God for you,
I didn't
and that
understand
he would take care of you too.
grace.
Yeah. Grace is powerful.
And because I was living a lie. I thought God must be disappointed with me.
Mm.
I'm not doing enough. I need to be doing more. People my age are doing this and they're doing that. And what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, Lord, you've given me so much. And look what I'm producing. I'm not producing as much as I could be.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking I'm failing my husband, I'm failing my kids, I'm failing my church. And I
Wow.
was just, in
It just doesn't end.
And then it was only in that time where I thought, oh, I've got this wrong.
Yeah.
This is not what God's saying.
Yeah.
And so sometimes those storms and those dark times
Yeah.
when we can easily cry victim,
Yeah.
we can actually use it as an opportunity to find the Lord. And when we find him, stay there
Yeah.
and just look and listen.
Wow.
Because there's something that we don't know, that we think we know,
But we don't know.
but we don't know. And we need to know it. And
Wow.
it's about not visiting the truth. It's about making the truth our home.
Yeah.
The Bible says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Why would it say taste?
Yeah.
Why not hear and see that the Lord is good?
Or look and see.
Or touch and feel that
Yeah.
the Lord is good? I don't know, but taste.
Taste it.
It's weird.
Yeah. That is different.
But the Bible says that, talks about truth being bread.
Yeah.
And when we eat, we take in the food and then we digest it. And the food, the nutrients in the food then start to feed the body.
Yeah.
And it starts to be distributed to the body. And whatever we don't need goes. But everything that we need now becomes a part of our muscle.
You absorb it.
We absorb it.
Wow.
And in meditating in God's presence, it's an opportunity, it's a discipline that
Mhm.
actually allows us not just to memorize truth or
Yeah.
read truth or recite truth, but it's about making the truth ours.
And be still and know that He is God.
Exactly. And as you are impacted by the truth, as he speaks to you,
Yeah.
as he teaches you what you need to know, that staying there.
Yeah.
Don't look and look away.
Yeah.
Don't come and go.
Yeah.
Come
Stay.
and stay.
Just
And
stay.
when you feel uncomfortable and think it's enough, stay some more
Wow.
and listen
Yeah.
and hear
Yeah.
and be impacted
Yeah.
by the truth of God's word. And eventually that will become your truth.
Wow.
Not the truth, but it part of you.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and that's why I think that we miss an opportunity if we say this is not fair and I shouldn't be going through this.
You can just stare at the situation and then but you don't go anywhere. I think like you said there's key things to do when you find yourself in a situation or you find yourself remembering about a past situation. Cuz even our past can make us get stuck in a victim mentality. So whether we're going through even a situation in our body that's really bothering us or we just remember the pains of the past and what people did or what they didn't do or how it felt like, you still can get stuck. Or what a lot of people do too is they'll blame others for why they're not progressing. That's the victim mentality. But if when we feel those things come on us, to say, hey, self, I'm going to get away. I'm going to be with God. There's been times where I didn't know what to do. And I would say, God, I'm going to go with you. And I'm not leaving until I know what you want me to do. And that's very similar. Like, I'm going to stay and I'm going to be with you because in his presence, there's fullness of joy. In his presence, he'll always tell us what to do. And I think it's so good because he also delivers us from ways, like he delivers us from pressure he's not putting on us.
Exactly.
He delivers us from from trying to hold on to, pains of the past, and even the expectations that he's not putting on us. He delivers us from that. In his presence, it all just goes away.
It does.
It does. So it's just so powerful. So I know you were telling me you have a book that.
That's right. So I wrote a book called Stay.
Wow.
And because I learnt so much in that season, and it explains my journey, but it also explains every lesson that I learned and how I meditated in God's presence.
Wow.
And it was a bit of a revelation for me because I've read John 15 many times, remain in me. Without me, you can do nothing, Jesus says.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, yeah, remain. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Be with Jesus, great. But it wasn't until I exercised this discipline of staying in God's presence for prolonged periods of time.
Yeah.
See, Pastor Jace and yourself, you teach the church to pray for an hour, how to pray for an hour.
Yeah.
Well, my medicine, because nobody would give me any medicine
To help me. Wow.
my medicine was staying in God's presence.
Yeah.
Just looking, listening for an hour.
Wow.
3 times a week.
Wow.
So that became my medicine.
That was your medicine.
And it took me about 8 months to start to sleep.
Wow.
A little bit normally, but 18 months probably to get to a place of complete healing.
Wow.
And you know how they say, the doctor will say, give you antibiotics, and they'll say, you won't feel it straight away.
Yeah.
But after the 3rd day of taking it, you'll start to feel the benefit.
Yeah.
Same with meditating in God's presence. It's a discipline, but it gives you so much. And I realized that word remain means to continue,
Yes.
to sojourn, to make your home, to stay.
And it's just peaceful.
Stay.
Peaceful.
Just stay.
Because whatever he tells you to do, you do it. But I don't want to be driven to do something he's not asking me to do.
Yeah.
I need to be his daughter and obey him. And all those insecurities of the past, even from being a child, they just can't go with me into my future. But if I am not in his presence, those insecurities get louder. If I'm not in his presence, those expectations feel heavier, even though nobody's necessarily putting them on me, but except for the enemy. But in his presence, there's a contentment that can only come from him. Well, we pretty much ran out of time, but I think that's a powerful testimony. I'm so glad that you shared that with us.
Oh, it's been a joy. And I think you're going to put the link to
Wow.
the book if anybody wants to
Yes.
read a little bit more about that or knows
Yes.
somebody or just wants maybe to turn up the spiritual temperature and intimacy with Jesus.
Yes.
It's a great tool.
So if you'd like more information, you can get Sophia's book. But I just want to encourage you. One last thing before I go over any final little things that we'd like to tell you, that God has a plan for your life. And the same God that loves us is the same God that loves you. And there's nothing too hard for him. I mean, whether it's a sickness in your body, whether something's going on in your family, whether it's just in your mind, like attack of your mind, if you get in God's presence, and like what Pastor Sophia said, you just stay in his presence. Don't let anything push you out. There's freedom in his presence. There's freedom in his word, and he will see you through. Just know that no matter what your situation is, he will see you through because he's good. And like Pastor Sophia said, his grace is sufficient for you. So I think it's just time now for you to get to know him on another level. But just a couple little announcements before we finish our lunch today. Make sure you connect with Pastor Jason on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, X, TikTok, Threads, all kinds of stuff. Thank you, all of you who have given to the ministry as well. God bless you. Those of you, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, make sure you do that. You click like, you can comment, nice comments, please. You can click subscribe or hit the notification bell. And also make sure you subscribe because you can get the weekly emails from Pastor Jason. But it's been so awesome to have lunch with you. Sophia and I, it's just such an honor to be with you today. You have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.